Guys, this week we're super grateful to have Jesse Griffiths from Die Dewey down in Austin. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, you bet. I'm excited to be here.
I think everybody's probably pretty familiar, but for the sake of clarity, you've written your book "Afield," what was published 2012. Is that right? I think we
Yeah,
looked
yeah, it just came up
2012.
about eight years ago in September.
Yeah, man, it's flown under my radar as half of a wild game cookbook nerd. So I'm kind of bothered that I don't have it, but that's being remedied. So why don't you kind of just talk about that and kind of introduce yourself and give the short bio real quick.
Yeah. So I put out Afield, 8 years ago, but I've been cooking for quite a while. I've been in restaurants since I was, 14, and eventually opened Daidue. Now we opened Daidue in 2006, so 14 years ago. If it wasn't the restaurant, we just opened it as a supper club, or not even opened. We just started hosting dinners and just cooking only food that was available locally, kind of as an experiment. So we're serving things like butternut squash and quail and Texas wines and Texas olive oil, and just every ingredient had to come from Texas. And we did that for many years. We were at the farmers market selling food and sausages, pickles, condiments, lard, tacos, stuff like that at the farmers market. Did that for a while. And then 10 years ago, I started the New School of Traditional Cookery, which is our hunting and fishing school, where we take people out on trips and teach them start to finish how to hunt, fish, butcher, skin, gut, clean animals, break them down, cook them, preserve them, cure them, package everything, start to finish. So it'll be called schools.
Was
Usually
that the
about
one that
3
was
days
featured on the YouTube video for Yeti?
Kind of. That was, it was a kind of a facsimile. That was like, I just took one person out for that, but it was very, very similar in format to that. But yeah, we normally in a normal year, this is obviously not a normal year, would do six clients or students in a class and then a lot of private stuff too. So I'd say 75% of our gigs in the past couple of years were we're going out to ranches and showing a family how to cut up feral hogs and deer and turkey and quail, whatever they want to do. Would just be like, go out there and get whatever you want and bring it back, and we'll play with it, and we'll teach you how to manage it a little better. Awesome. And so we've been doing that for 10 years now, and then we opened the restaurant 6 years ago, and it's still kicking, as much as the restaurant can kick it.
Kick right now for sure.
Right now.
I can tell you, as a group, we have a plan to make a weekend run to come down there very soon. As soon as we get hunting season, and especially approaching deer season and duck season here, ain't going to be till February. But I guarantee you, as soon as February hits, like, we're piling a vehicle with our significant others, and we'll be there.
Yeah, come on down. We got a patio open right now, and it's really nice out there. And actually spent the day today trying to level off an area in the bushes to add another table outside. It's really going to be like best seat in the house because it's all tucked away, and it's going to be pretty cool. But,
nice.
I guess in a nutshell, that's it. We serve a lot of game and fish out of the Gulf at the restaurant. Lots of like true wild game, mostly nilgai, a lot of feral hog. Those are the ones we can access legally. I actually broke down a whole nilgai cow today at the restaurant for service the next couple weeks, and we get in a lot of trapped feral hogs there. So it's a real good opportunity to go to a restaurant, eat real game, not a farm raised venison, or not just quail that comes from a farm. But we serve farm raised quail too. But
I love quail.
But I think if you're looking for like real wild stuff, we do get a lot of that too.
But the quail's local, a local farmer, or
Yeah. So Texas Quail Farms out of Lockhart, they started at the farmers market around the same time we did. And Todd, who owns Texas Quail Farms, became a good friend of mine. And he was selling like 3-4 dozen quail at the farmers market a weekend. And then I think a few years back, I asked him, I think he was up to 35,000 a week.
Jeez.
Wow.
He's an Aggie.
Yeah.
It's like they just take it and run. He does a great job. It's the best farm raised quail you can probably get in this country, and he does just a fabulous job on it. And so, yeah, we're real proud to carry that stuff. And he's right out there in Lockhart. He's 30 minutes away, and he also has some very good duck hunting on his property. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Good friend to have.
Stay tight with him
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
Good hookup to have.
yeah.
Before we dive into other things, clarify, because I've talked about your restaurant to people and explained you serve a ton of game, but a lot of people think, and rightfully so, oh, you can't legally sell game, and I explained the idea of non-game animals such as nilgai and hog. I mean, completely legal, obviously, but when you buy these animals, I mean, do they have to run through a USDA facility or anything? I forget the statutes and how that works. Or can you buy directly from farmers, ranchers who kill for you?
That's a great question. So if you're gonna ship that game beyond state lines, then you're gonna need to get federal stamp on it from the USDA. Now, if you're only distributing that product in the state, then you can use a state inspector, and that's gonna be a lot easier on you as a processor. So we deal with one person out in Fredericksburg. He's also become a good friend of mine, and he provides us with beef, feral hog. He kills and processes our domestic pork as well. We get not all of our deer. We get any of our whole carcass deer from him. He also brings us rabbits, goats. He brings us eggs. He brings us peaches. I mean,
he's a one-stop shop.
He's just kind of like, hey, this is what I got this week. And you're like,
he's
I'll
a
take
dealer.
Some. Yeah, he's a dealer.
So he has a state inspector there. And so if you're talking about a non-game animal, and we're only talking about non-game animals. So as far as venison goes, from that source, we're looking at axis, sika, maybe a black buck. I think we've gotten an aoudad or two. Pear David, red deer is a big one, and we even worked through a herd of elk for a while. That was on. Most of these are going to come from a high fence ranch that wants to cull out some cows and stuff like that. So when we get a whole carcass, we're dealing with him. Feral hogs are trapped and brought to him live. And there's a state inspector on site. And I'm sorry, make the specification that the venison is also brought in live. So they will trap them and bring them in, and they're given what's called an ante-mortem inspection, which means before death. The state inspector okays it, then they're killed, and then they're given a post-mortem inspection as well. And that goes for the hogs and any of those non-game deer. And then most of the time what we do is we buy a lot of nilgai trim. So we're just buying like trimmed out nilgai meat because we use it for a lot of sausages. It doesn't really make sense for us to buy a whole carcass. So we get all that through a really kind of groundbreaking company called Broken Arrow Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with them. But they're out in Ingram, which is a little bit west of Kerrville, out like in basically the middle of the hill country, real pretty out there. And they developed a program where they take a state inspector with them, and they have two snipers, sharpshooters.
Yeah.
And they will go out and they will pay a ranch, and they will cull animals off of that ranch. And those are nilgai, axis, typically nilgai and axis, because they kind of deal in like the super tasty stuff.
Sure.
And they've got a state inspector with them, and a refrigerated trailer, and a guy in a white lab coat and a hard hat that starts to process immediately. So they shoot these animals with headshots. They get an ante-mortem from the inspector. The animals are then killed, and then they process on site and put them in this refrigerated trailer. And it's a phenomenal way to get meat. I mean, if you think about it, it's some of the only meat that can enter the food system that's been killed on site.
For sure.
And it never took a step. I mean, it was just eating some grass. Next thing, it walks into the light, and they're there processing this stuff quickly and efficiently and under inspection. And then they bring it back. They have a big butchering facility, and they are distributing to all 50 states, and it's very, very efficient, and very high quality.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
sure.
it's really cool. And
It's really
totally
rad.
legal. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get confronted. I mean, every once a quarter, somebody
yeah.
comes in like, you can't sell venison.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you know this, man, but you're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah, I'm
oh,
like,
okay,
oh,
thanks,
no,
man.
really?
Holy crap!
Yeah.
This restaurant's been running illegally for
Yeah.
Built my life on this.
since
Yeah, there's a
2006.
game warden sitting at table 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people associate the word venison with whitetail.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Sure.
That encompasses a lot of ungulates.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
red deer, axis, stuff like that. That's, in a lot of these high fence ranches and a lot of free roaming, that, is a non-game servable animal. I know you want to talk about fishing, too. The fish that you serve at the restaurant that you source, are those local, too?
Well,
When applicable?
Yeah, and I mean, there's been times we're not, the volume isn't really there right now where we're serving as much fish as we used to, and we used to do a lot more exciting stuff out of the Gulf, and mostly Texas Gulf. We've kind of broadened our horizons because there's some really high quality stuff coming out of the Eastern Gulf, and the way that the fish is treated out of the Eastern Gulf is I hate to say superior. They've got a little more forward-thinking boat captains and stuff out there, and so we could see some really good fresh stuff coming from Alabama, Florida, things like that. But for the most part, I mean, we traffic pretty heavily in black drum, which is typically trot lined in the Texas Gulf. They catch them on trot. I don't know if you know how they do it, but it's crazy. They take these little wooden dowels that have holes in them, and they soak them in fish oil. And then they just thread that onto a hook, and then they run trot lines, and they catch black drum that way. And so
that's the bait.
It's really cool, and there's just such a high volume of black drum that comes commercially in that it's a very easy fish to get fresh consistently. So if you want like really good goldfish, black drum is usually your best bet because it just turns over so quick. And we serve a lot of black drum. We'll do line caught pompano when we can. I tend to avoid redfish in the restaurant because it has to be farm raised, because that is a game fish, and so you can't
Okay.
sell wild redfish in Texas, even if it wasn't caught in Texas. It has to be farm raised, and so I mean I've had farm raised redfish and it was okay, but my preference is still wild caught fish coming from a sustainable stock.
Sure. Those ones we had were the best. That was my favorite whitefish I've ever had now.
We were
Addicted.
4 weeks ago in Rockport, chasing into teal season. Hurricane pushed them out, and then we went red fishing. Fishing was tough, but a couple landed, and we ate on them. I made a chorizo compound butter, and we slathered them in that, and
Yeah.
and
That was so good.
It was awesome.
It was pretty,
very good.
pretty good.
On the half shell,
Yeah.
grilled on that.
So were you saying the best fish was redfish or black drum?
My favorite was redfish.
I've got a freezer full
Yeah.
of black drum. The wife and I were in South Padre for work stuff, and we went out with a guide one morning, kind of just take a break by ourselves, and they were running a channel down there, in Matagorda Bay, down way south, and we sit there and smash 2 limits in a couple hours, and so we've got a ton of black drum in the freezer. I'll cook. It's delicious. We'd never had it before, and the guide was like, "Man, a lot of us down here like this over redfish, even."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go.
But that's what our guides were saying. They were like, "Man, black drum's
Yeah,
pretty damn good."
Everybody ignores it, but it's delicious. It seems.
I don't get that. I mean, redfish is probably my favorite too. There's something that maybe edges it out over black drum. It's just got this maybe fluffy characteristic to it, but the steakiness, just the meatiness of redfish is just unsurpassed. But black drum is a close second for me. And it's just funny. There's the prejudices that people will have about fish down there. They're like, "Oh, black drum is actually pretty good." I'm like, "Wait, so the fish that you went out and caught fought hard? They average 3 or 4 pounds, and they're delicious. What exactly is not to love about that fish?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fight. They were fun.
Yeah, they're great fun, and they're really good eating too. They fry excellently, and you can cook them on the half shell too.
Yep. We saved a few fillets in the half shell. I'll fry some.
Please.
We'll do this.
Please.
Peas.
Peas.
So you source restaurant stuff, from farm raised where needed, and sustainable wild caught, where you can. But personally, I mean, we've seen all the videos and stuff you've been on and hitting crappie and cooking bass. Let's talk about cooking bass because that's
Especially talking
so.
about-
I mean, you've said it so many times, and we know it that this bass tournament thing has made just even hardly keeping bass such a thing that a lot of people are just like, oh no, no. But
Well, you
we've
hear people
been
talk about it
talking-
on podcasts that they're like, you eat
no,
bass?
you can't eat those. My
Yeah, you
dad
can't
was in
eat
town
those.
this weekend. Was even like, I mean, you know how bad bass is, right? And I was like, I don't, but so talk to us about bass and cooking bass. Just let's break all the stereotypes. Let's bother people.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, have at it.
Get it out. Yeah, I mean that's low hanging fruit right
Yeah.
there as far as eating bass. I mean, a bass is a sunfish. It's in the same family as a crappie, a bluegill, and a red breast, and a red ear, and a long ear. And to me, I mean, the meat on a 14-inch bass is almost like that of an oversized bluegill. I mean, they're delicious. I will definitely keep a legal size bass.
Sure.
And happily fry it. I think the weird, it's almost like a reverse prejudice against, an eating bass. Just like people, they you won't eat a gaff top for some weird reason. It all kind of boils down to these strange aesthetics that we assign these fish. So I
Exactly.
guess you might call it speciest.
Sure.
But and then it comes down to this. A bass is a sport fish, and I don't know. There's a writer named Jim Harrison. He wrote Legends of the Fall, and a lot of other books. And he's written a lot about food. And he lived in Montana, and he was known as a great. He loved food. I mean, he had like severe gout. I mean, the guy he liked to party. But he's written a lot about food, and he's also written a lot about hunting and fishing. And one of my favorite quotes about fishing tournaments, he said that it's like playing tennis with living balls. And I tend to agree with that. It's just like, it's so funny that he's like, I want to talk some trash about the bass tournament, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch how fast they reel a bass in, there's just no joy in that at all. I mean, it's just like that thing gets slung into the boat and bear hugged, so it can't get away, and with little regard for the fish. I mean, the fish is an individual, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, you can't hurt anything. Obviously,
Fish are our friends too.
But it's just a weird relationship they have with these fish. They don't really regard them as animals. They're just like
they make it such a faux pas to keep them. But at the same time, they're slapping them on that carpeted deck, and
you got to boat flip them, man. You got to
boat
flip
them, and you got to do those coal buoys in the live well. Like, oh, this one's this. Like, pull that one out and coaling, and it's just messy. And then they're like, oh, you have to throw them back, but like you just beat the piss out of that one.
I mean, what's the mortality rate on those fish?
Exactly.
You got to take them back to one away station, and then you're releasing a couple hundred bass that from aggregated from all over the lake in this one spot.
Relocating.
It's very strange.
Not to mention, you put a bass in a live well and then drive a boat 5,000 miles an hour across the lake. That can't be a smooth ride inside of that thing for that thing.
Everything. Hitting some chop. Boom,
exactly.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. And I think they taste great. I first really enjoyed bass when I was a kid. I was probably about 12 or 13, and I went to visit some relatives in Michigan, and I was, just caught 12, 14-inch bass all day long out of 58-degree water, and they were absolutely into frying those, and that's basically what we ate every night was just a couple bass, and we'd fry up and eat ketchup. And at that point, I was like, "Oh, these things are good. They're real good." And I mean, I'm not gonna say that like the warm water versions of them are. I mean, they're not quite as good, but I mean, any cold water fish has a slight edge.
Sure.
But I still think that bass is great. And I mean, a good mixed bag of crappie, some bluegill, maybe a bass or two, throw catfish on there, and come on. It's good stuff. And Yeah, I think we just, it's just funny. Humans are strange. We make these really strange rules about things, and they don't really adhere to much logic.
No, we assign these emotions to things that are just not logical in the least.
Yeah.
You know, that's a prime example of it. Like this one species of fish, only for tournament fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can't eat that. I mean, you know more than anybody. You can't eat wild hogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to say, your Instagram posts lately about like I'm guessing I have to throw this rack of ribs out from this wild hog because this
can't
is
eat 'em.
perfectly not edible. That's been slopped and smoked for this. Like, nice.
Yeah. I mean, the hog thing it's true, but I mean it's really apparent, I think, with fish. Though.
Yes.
I mean, obviously the hogs. That's that.
I mean, I kind of get it.
Let me get like 2 more drinks in, and we'll do it.
Yes.
I just never thought to eat bass. Like
fish
growing
are
up in bass fishing, like I never thought, like, oh, I'll eat this fish. It was always just like, hey, I caught a fish, put him back in, catch another one.
Yeah, because that's
never,
where you were trained.
Yeah,
It's
never
bass.
was
You
like,
don't keep 'em.
and then it was like when we went out to the farm that one time, you're like, well, if we catch any, any coalers, like, well, just throw them in this live well, take them home and eat them. We put them on a stringer. He took them home. It's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was
We
like,
can eat
we're eating
this.
these.
Yeah.
And we'd said toward the end of the summer there, before we really kind of started getting in the beginning of hunting season, we wanted to do a quick little video. We got this little, we call it the farm. It's a little piece of private property. It's got a bass pond on it they're culling out of. We kind of help out around there, shoot pigs. We get to deer hunt a little bit. It's great place. It's an hour and a half from home. We said we were going to do a little quick video out there, catch some bass, cut up some bass, fry some bass, just do some fried fish tacos on a quick little campfire and just blow people's minds. Like, you can't eat that. It's a bass and it's out of a pond. And just to poke the bear a little bit and eat some bass, and it's going to be delicious.
Yep.
Oh, they're going to be great.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
They're just big bluegills.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks bluegill's good.
For sure.
Bluegill's
Right?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really, I mean, the strange prejudices are real prevalent in saltwater, where you have just like the big 3. And then beyond that, I mean, even like we're just talking about, black drum are kind of like on the edge of that. And then, a sheep's head or hell, I mean, gaff top. I mean, I always talk about gaff tops. I mean, how good those are.
So we're all fairly, 2 or 3 trips to saltwater Gulf Bay fishing. Gaff top. What is a gaff top?
Saltwater catfish, right?
It's a saltwater catfish. So there's 2
Like
kinds.
hardhead?
There's the hardhead, which is the hardhead's mostly the little ones.
Yeah.
Those are rarely going to get over.
The ones you catch all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. The ones I catch all the time.
Yeah.
Croakers.
Croaker's excellent. And you hit a croaker run in the surf where you're catching
big
2-pound
croakers.
average
Yeah.
croakers. I mean, you're set. I mean, that's beautiful. We had a croaker and whiting run one year. It was probably in November in the surf, and we were just tearing up, 14, 16-inch whiting and probably like 14-inch croakers. Probably caught 20, 30 of them. And those things are fantastic, and they're all full of eggs too, and you can fry those up.
Fry the
too.
roe, the egg sacks.
Yeah, really good. So many of
never
those
had
fish
that.
are great,
That
and you
sounds
can
really
eat
good.
stingrays. The cat.
I was to say, there's something attacking you.
Look out behind you.
Yeah, I mean, croakers, stingray, gaff tops. Gaff tops they're super slimy. A lot of people have a problem with them because they'll really gunk up a cooler pretty badly. But they're excellent. They fry up really nicely.
Are they comparable to their freshwater cousins?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe even a little better. I think that they're a little milder. I haven't had one in a while, but I've always really enjoyed them. But and they get big, and that's another case for them. It's just like people like they're considered a trash fish, and I caught probably like a 9 or 10 pound gaff top once on a jig. I mean, on a lure, wade fishing outside of Port O'Connor. And everything was there. I'm standing in this beautiful spot. I'm fishing a lure. I caught a really big fish. It put up a huge fight. It took me forever to get that thing in, get it in, and the guide's just disappointed. And I'm like, wait, what part of this equation isn't cool?
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. This is a big fish. It hit a lure. And I mean, I knew at the time, I was like, and these things are delicious. And he was like, not in my boat, you know, and you can't put that thing in there. So we had to let it go. And I was just like, I just
that
don't get it.
sucks.
I mean, why are we fishing? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Why?
Beautiful place,
Yeah.
big fish.
Especially
fight.
if you were paying him to guide you. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm paying
Now,
you to
they're
rent.
real slimy. I'll give him that. Now, they're real slimy. You know, but
Look at me, I'm the captain.
What about so,
Yeah.
to quickly interrupt maybe skipjack ladyfish, you know? I mean, I've caught piles of those and everybody says those are way too bony and inedible. Is that pretty true?
yeah, I've cooked I think 2 of them.
Yeah.
We sliced some up raw and ate it once, and it was pretty good. But it's just like, you know, we just thinly sliced a little salt. It was fine. I haven't experimented with it a lot, but I mean, the take home is that they're all edible. Everything's edible.
Sure.
Right.
Just how much you want to put into it and how bony they are and how hungry you are and, you know, whatever. I mean, they could be made into, oh, you know what? I mean, I've made fish sauce out of them, which is probably not anything that's going to get anybody on board. Like the process for making fish sauce, I don't know if you're aware, is basically you chop up a fish, guts and all, you put some salt on it, you stick it in a jar at room temperature, and you come back in a year. It's the transition for the first 11 months is
a
pretty
little
rough.
pungent.
Pretty rough. I mean, my wife doesn't like me making sauerkraut indoors, much less
Ooh.
that.
Yeah, it's making sauerkraut of like, gut in saltwater fish. But at the end of it, you have fish sauce. If you ever bought fish sauce
For
at the
sure.
store, or had any Vietnamese food, fish sauce is in there, and it's just this amazing source of flavor. It's not something you're going to want to drink, but
Yeah.
it is
It's
pretty
a flavor
good. So
additive.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have made fish sauce out of ladyfish pretty effectively.
All right.
And then, like I said, and then like thinly slicing some raw,
But is
you know,
it stupid bony like they say?
it is very much.
Okay. All right.
So, also adding to this, speaking of bony fish, have you ever done anything with carp?
Yes, I have. I've cooked a couple, caught some out of the San Marcos River. They were okay.
Okay.
You know, I think the San Marcos is probably one of the best places locally that I could have caught one. Like, you know, consistent, cool water temps pretty much year round. Never gets above the 70s. Caught some pretty big carp out of there and cooked them. They had, you know, they were a bit on the muddy side, but still totally edible. I mean, kind of like, you know, maybe I'd compare it to like you know, like a catfish, but a little bit exaggerated.
Okay.
I think I would go back and try something new with them again if I caught another one. But another fish that I love that's freshwater is gar. Absolutely love gar. It's very good.
Yeah,
I'm
we've
super
been
pro gar.
Yeah.
What was the recipe Drew was talking about? Like scales and all, they were making hush puppies.
The gar balls.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know
not
if
with
scale. I don't
scales.
think scales. Gar scales are
Yeah,
tinfoil.
yeah.
Or
But he said something
metal.
like that.
You split the. I mean, what I've done, and Jessica can absolutely interrupt, is split the back up and kind of split the open, and so you can open the back up like a taco shell almost,
Right.
and cut those
And-
back straps
The
out.
loins, yeah.
And at that point, you could ball them if you wanted. The last couple I caught, wife made paella with it, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
We-
you could grind it up with some breadcrumbs and some scallions and stuff, and fry balls of it. Sure, I mean it's good white meat. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
you could I think poaching it in butter is clutch because to me it had a lot of consistency like lobster. So I think it would
Yeah.
absorb a lot of that. I mean, what do you think?
No, you nailed it. I mean, that's the exact right technique. Take some tin snips or pruning shears, go right down the backbone, and then you're taking these long tubes, back straps exactly, off of them. The one trick that I do is to make the initial cuts in there. If you take your knife, the scales run at a real hard angle. If you can actually get your knife between those scales, then you can cut not through the scales, but between
In
them.
between.
You kind of make it's hard to describe
Yeah.
on the audio, but
Okay.
just kind of making a diagonal cut all the way around it, right behind its head. And you don't ever cut through a scale. You're just going right between them, but you have to nail that angle. And then you just crack the head back, pull the guts out, and then come in with those tin snips. And it's a real good way. And you have that that really nice long loin that you have, and I like to slice it real thin and fry it. It's very good. I'd say lobster, chicken thigh, kind of frog leg texture.
Yeah, definitely frog. We just ate a bunch of frog legs recently. Yeah,
Ooh,
I could compare to that. Our neighbor next door was like, I gigged a bunch of frogs and I cooked them and they were gross, or they were too tough. They weren't gross. I said, hey, gig some more and y'all come over for dinner.
Nice.
I think we kind of chatted on Instagram, or I posted or something. I sous vide them for a bit, a couple hours, and just butter, just to put some fat into them. And so they were cooked, and then I just battered them and fried them real fast on the chicken fry batter, just seasoned flour, and they were awesome. You could have served them to any human and told them it was pieces of chicken, and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is great, because it just inundated some fat in there. It was white meat. It was awesome. I told them to keep stabbing frogs. It was great.
Gig 'em.
Yeah, they're excellent.
And Gar, kind of same way. It's gotten cool now, and we're busy. But you and I were texting that day about getting out to get some. And soon as spring warm, soon as it hits spring and they're back up in the shallows, dude, we need to get out and fill a freezer up.
Yeah,
for sure.
That. Hit the Brazos again.
Back to the Gulf species. Are there any fish that to you aren't worth the effort? Like, as I know, you just said that it's all edible. Most fish are edible. Are there any that really aren't worth the fuss?
I can't really even think of anything offhand. I'd say I won't mess with little hardheads. There's not a lot of meat on them, and but I've eaten pretty much everything else out there: pinfish, piggy perch, croaker whiting.
A lot of the bait fish, like the stuff you can catch in the surf, like with a cast net or something.
Yeah, I've smoked mullet, and if you care to clean them up, stingrays can be really good too. They make excellent soup and stock. They're really gelatinous. So
the wings, you trim the
totally,
wings off.
Yeah, it's a weird cut. It's basically it's a wing. You gotta kind of follow the contour of that round wing, and they're very small fillets. You just cut them off the top. And it's very, they're the same family as skate, so it's very similar. It's got this very stringy kind of texture to it, but they're quite good. And like I said, there's something about them. They're high in gelatin, so they make very good stock. Or if you want to make a fish soup with stingray, it's really good. It just has a lot of body to it.
You always hear that you buy cheap little dime-sized diver scallops that they're punch skate wing. Is it a myth?
Yeah, it's a myth. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew you would know if anybody did.
Yeah, no, you hear that all the time.
You do.
But I've never seen it in action. I think it's just one of those,
old wives' tales.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Perpetrated over the years.
It's punch skate wing, and you don't eat wild hogs. same deal.
Right. Same guy saying all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We kind of mentioned at the beginning. Abe, when we were down in Rockport, he's like, we should catch some crabs. I was like, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into this. Back up we were teal hunting, I was stomping around because I'd gone around the way and ditched the boat. And I found a couple abandoned crab traps. And that even got us talking of like,
okay, so here's
crabbing.
here's my question,
take
right?
it.
So I'm going to throw a scenario out, and you tell me how you would handle it. I'm going to the coast, maybe me and the family. I've never done it before, but I want to try it. How would I go about doing it?
All right. So crabbing is this is my thing.
Yeah.
All right.
You meet duck hunters, and they're like, duck hunting is my thing. Crabbing is
that's
my
us.
thing. There you go. That's a duck hunter right there.
Yeah.
I love crabbing. In fact, one day I'm going to grow this beard out even a little more. I'm going to learn to weld. I'm going to weld my own crabbing boat, and I'm going to become a hermit on the coast. I'm going to be a crabber.
Nice.
That is my retirement goal.
Like
right
a
Goals are good
Texas
to have.
version of what's the crabbing show? Deadliest Catch.
Deadliest Catch.
there. Yeah.
See, I
It'll
feel
be
like I'm
The
definitely
not
kindred-
deadliest catch.
Yeah.
We just hang out.
Like,
but anyways.
Chillest.
Yeah.
I feel like I would be I'm super into catching crabs. I've never done it though.
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, there's two ways to go about it. I mean, there's the
Chicken on a
string
string.
version, which
The what
You know,
version? I'm sorry.
String.
the string where you're literally just taking a chicken neck
Yeah, chicken on a
and
string.
tying it and throwing it out on a string.
I hope that.
You can tie that to like a stake. Basically, what you're just looking for is a little bit of movement, and then you need a long-handled net that has like a kind of wide mesh on it, and a long, I'd say like at least a 5-foot handle on it. And then when it starts to wander off, you just very slowly pull that crab in, just so he's still holding on to it, and get that net under. Pull the crab over it, scoop them up. I mean, it's that easy.
Super technical.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, we could
make that happen.
with a cooler full of beer, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But
if you have kids, it's primo. That's great.
all right.
Or if you are
The
a
other
kid.
one-
Yeah, like
Or
Abe
if I am a
Abe is a
child,
child, basically, so we're good.
We
how
can
it
put
is.
him and Brayley doing this.
Yeah.
There you
Brayley
go.
is his 9-year-old.
So say,
Oh yeah, kids love it. I mean, but then I like to just run traps. So in Texas, you can legally have 5 traps. And next time you're down there, actually there's a crabber in Seadrift, and he makes really good traps. And you can go there and just buy traps from him. And get
what's the
about
trap
30
cost?
bucks.
$30?
Dude.
Let's buy
Well,
some traps.
See? I told you we should have done this.
Retail, they're going to be like 40, 45. You need a buoy as well.
We don't have kids
if you're
and
going to
we
put it out
have
in
jobs.
public water. But yeah, give yourself a good trap, and then just go out and throw it. It's like just try different depths. If you've got a boat, then you can obviously take it places. You need to make sure that it's legally marked with a gear tag, and that you've got a properly marked buoy on it. But if you're off a dock or something, it's really simple. And we'll just usually go out and throw 5 traps. If we're down on the coast, we rent a little house down
So,
here or something.
Let me ask you this question. So let's say that this crew's going down to the coast. Is it 5 traps for
Per
just
person.
me per person? So like we could run a bunch of traps.
Oh my god.
We also
Stage
have to A,
trap.
transport the traps, B, store the traps when we're done, C,
Don't
put
you-
out and retrieve.
We already have literally probably a house that we could fill with decoys.
We have
for ducks.
tens of dozens of decoys. We don't need. You know what we need to put in that shipping container storage? 50 crab traps.
Yeah.
There you go.
No.
See? Why?
It's a beautiful sight.
See?
It's a
Jesse
beautiful
gets
sight.
me.
Yeah, but do you have a whole Connex box of duck decoys too?
No, I got 30.
Yeah.
But no.
Oh,
So,
30 dozen.
what?
That's cute, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
We have more ducks
we have
that'll-
that many mojos.
Yeah. We have more
Um,
ducks that will land inside of Texas this year.
Yeah, for sure. We could shoot a decoy for every duck we should shoot this
And
year,
we'll
and
still
have
come
plenty
out
left for
ahead.
next year.
Yeah.
So
Been there, done that.
what was I gonna say? What kind of crabs? If we say we run down to Rockport again, drop these traps. What are we catching? Blue or Dungeness or blues?
No, you're predominantly blues.
Okay,
I'd
that's
say.
what-
The Rockport area.
Stones?
I've gotten into a few stone crabs too. Let's see, where were we? It was Rockport. Actually, it has been Rockport where I've caught the most stone crabs. And you just pull the claw off.
Yep.
I don't know
And
what
put
we
'em
didn't
back.
talk about this.
In the
Have to
same
be 3.5
traps, the
inches.
same
Quarter
traps you're
inches.
catching blues in.
Yeah. And I mean, we use. I've tried everything, and I really come back to fresh chicken as the best bait.
Just
It
the
needs to be
cheapest cut
fresh,
you can
know?
find.
Yeah.
Drumsticks.
Yeah,
Goes
well,
to-
at the restaurant, I'll have them save up necks,
Get some
for like
Pilgrim's
2
Pride.
months, and because we're using local organic chicken, and I think that gives me an edge.
Yeah, for sure.
There it is.
Those crabs want to understand. They want to eat healthy too.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this has antibiotics in it. Never mind.
Yeah.
Next trap.
I'm not into Tyson chicken.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it doesn't matter. Leg quarters, necks, turkey will work too.
Quail.
But I think it needs to be
see what you
fresh.
did there.
They like it a lot more.
Okay.
That are fresh fish, you can, if you catch some stuff like that, you can chunk that up in there. But it's
Just-
so simple.
Just
Yeah, there's
like you're
nothing
talking
to it.
fish, just the guts and the head, and just the unused
Just-
parts.
Cast net some big mullet and just chop them in half, throw them in there.
All right.
They don't mind shrimp sometimes. Sometimes you're fishing off the pier and you're like, I got a fish, and you reel it up and it's a crab. Like, what are you doing
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
What's the minimum length on what carapace is like 6 inches or something? Blues, what is it?
5.
5. Okay.
Yeah. So this is probably about 2 years ago. We were flounder gigging, or I was talking about going flounder gigging, but not in a boat, just waiting around. And my daughter was like, I was saying, when we were out there, we were seeing tons of crabs at night. And so she was like, why don't you just attach a crab net to your gig, like on the other end of it? And I was like, that's brilliant.
All right.
Super smart. So,
Wow.
you have a 5
Are you sure
foot
I
gig.
made you?
I know. So 5 foot gig, and then like maybe 5 or 6 foot crab net, just duct taped. So you've got
duct tapes.
Classic.
a spear on one side and a net on the other, and then I rigged a kitty litter container with a foam around it and poked holes in the bottom and dragged that around behind me, and that was my crab
Laundry
container.
basket.
Yep.
And we would just go out there, and you're looking for flounder, but you just see these crabs scurry around. And in the summer, it can be really good. And we were scooping 20, 30 crabs, and maybe stabbing a flounder or 2 or 3, which is that's a good night.
Totally.
If you can
That's
find a good
awesome.
week to go spend at the coast this next summer.
We should.
So
Whoa.
This summer, I just got big into
You got
jug
elk
fishing.
hunting.
We moved
Oh,
up
yeah.
here. We live right off Grapevine Lake, and
Oh, cool.
man, after work, I'd get out, dump the boat in the water, run my jug line, and then just kind of hit the current and drift back and drink a beer and pick a couple up. And I mean, I went out.
You did pretty good.
I went out and didn't get skunked for handfuls of trips in a row. I was
feels
like,
good.
well, yeah, did well. I loved it. So we've said we didn't get it done before we got into fall here, but we were gonna just go out and do a Friday night, get out on the boat, headlamps and big spotlights, and set a bunch of jugs and just jug fish all night and do a podcast and drink beers and.
No, that
Dude,
sounds amazing.
we're gonna do it in the spring for sure. It was awesome. I mean,
I
jug
say
fishing
we
is
do-
fun.
I
Look
say we
at
do
the
it to hold
channels.
spot.
We
a
see
lot of
both.
channels.
See both up here really.
Yeah.
I caught a mixed bag. The bigger ones I caught were blues,
In Denton Creek?
but yeah,
Nice.
and I definitely caught some channels too. So
What creek?
Denton
Does
Creek,
Denton Creek
north
that
north
feeds
into Lake
Grapevine?
Grapevine. It's no
Yeah.
secret.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
from
so
Denton.
familiar with Denton, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
were you born there or grew up
I was
there?
born there.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born there, and when I was a kid, that's when they filled Lake Ray Roberts.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
I think
we
you
would go
mentioned
up there and fish while they're filling the lake. Before, it was just a bunch of disconnected farm ponds, and they were
Stay
starting to
off that
flood
lake
it. And
now.
we were going up there and fishing, and used to catch white bass spawning on the dam,
No
like
kidding.
in the wind.
Yeah.
They would go up there and they would
Yep.
spawn on the dam instead of up in the creeks. We had no idea what we're doing, but up there just catching monster white bass up to 3 pounds, just on the dam up there. Big crappie and catfish, everything. Yeah, good times up there.
Yeah,
That's
for
rad.
sure. Well, we're fishing Denton Creek right here, the north side of Lake Grapevine, right at 377.
Yeah,
If you
That's
know
cool.
kind of where we're at, yeah. And
yeah.
plenty of catfish. They say the crappie fishing was good. He did
Yeah.
well. We didn't target many crappies. Just there's only so much time, but it's been fun living up here. We moved up here at the beginning of the pandemic, and having a little boat ramp 5 minutes from the house is awesome.
No, that's amazing.
So we get up and
Yeah.
do some stuff.
And a badass boat
Well-
to put on.
Well, back to crabs. You got to get into it. I mean, it's the easiest. And if you've got kids, it's just the best. It's like opening Christmas presents like 3 times a day.
What's the limit
Yeah.
per person?
There's no limit.
No kidding.
Oh my god.
Really? It's 5-inch carapace, and you're good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Abe's freaking out.
Five,
right now. I
five,
can't even
five
see it.
traps and 5 inches.
And that goes the same
5
for
traps,
the
5 inches.
stone crab claws? No limit?
Stone crab. That's a good question.
Or we could just check that.
If only there was
Check
an
the
Yeah,
app
I've
on the
never caught
device.
more than 2 or 3 in a day.
Yeah.
But those the stone crab claw that has to be 2.5 inches. And I don't really keep female crabs.
Even the blues?
Yeah, even the blues. They only spawn once. And if you're into them, then you don't need to. And
Sure.
if they're spongy, which means they got eggs on the bottom, you
Yeah.
have by law you have to put them back. But
wow.
typically, I'll keep like a really big old female crab that is already spawned, because like I said, they'll spawn one time. So if you're fairly certain that she's already done her duty, then you keeper, but
What was the
typically we'll put all of them
Stone.
back, all the females,
So they spawn once in their life or once a year?
once in their life.
No kidding.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
an old female is
No limits.
over a year?
I don't really know. I'd say they're probably a couple years
years.
old at least, and then yeah, you can tell really easy. I mean, you get used to it. They like red tips on their claws, and then they have the
Signs of
bottom
aging.
has a different shape to it. It's like rounded versus a little pointier on a male. But after a while, you get to where you can spot
tell the
them
difference.
right away. We can spot them in the like at night. We can spot a female just moving in the water usually.
Huh.
But I mean, you can get in some big crabs too. I mean, some of them are 7-8 inches at the carapace.
All right, I
So-
guess we're going crabbing in the
Weigh a
spring.
pound.
So
Yeah.
just so we're talking about it on the Outdoor Annual app, it says only the right claw may be retained or possessed.
On a stone crab.
Blah blah blah. There's no daily bag limit. Possession limit is no limit. The maximum length is 2.5-inch claw, measured from the tip of the claw to the first joint behind the
Maximum length?
yeah
Should be
minimum.
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 I was gonna say
Yeah, it
there's,
says
there's a
minimum.
slot.
Okay, I was about to say.
Did I say maximum?
Yeah.
I don't
That's it.
I don't read.
Between
Yo,
two-
let the only
2
guy in the
inches
group
and
that can't
2.5
read read.
I know talking good, okay?
No talking good.
I just can't read. I can talk all right, bitch.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Getting aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was bullied in school. What?
And you learn Taekwondo and you never look back, huh?
Nope.
Well,
You think anybody wants a roundhouse from one of these
Yeah,
puppies?
yeah. I was going to use that reference. Okay.
yeah, we're going crabbing then.
I told you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had so much time while we were there.
Yeah, thanks
Well,
a lot,
we
buddy.
could've
Whenever
Easily
we
just-
whenever we come down to the restaurant in February, Jesse, we'll have to bend your ear a little bit more about it and figure out. We'll have to plan out if we're going to go back to Rockport.
I just told you everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's very hard. Like,
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
buy a trap,
Yeah.
buy a
Yeah.
buoy, buy a gear tag, buy some chicken, buy some beer, chuck
the
everything other
water.
than the beer in the water, and drink the beer,
Tie
it all
then go
together.
pull all the other stuff out of the water, and there's probably crabs on the other end.
Put them
I
in
mean, right? That's
boiling
Cliff
water.
Notes.
They like moving water, just like
Okay.
anything out there. It's like if the more the tide's moving, the better. And I usually just try different depths, and then the one trap that's loaded up, move everything to that depth,
Yeah.
and like little cuts and channels in the marsh. Plop one in there, and and they can be shallow. They can also be 12 feet down. But the crazy thing about crabs is they can also be in both those areas pretty
Yeah.
consistently.
There's
So
everywhere.
I'd say, just keep it mobile and just check them and rebait.
So,
That's it.
so for you, is it like to each his own, or would you recommend that everyone throws back the females?
That that to each his own. But I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, you're probably going to do pretty good crabbing. There's a lot of them out there, and they just like anything else. We can get caught up in that abundance, and then pay the price in 10 years or 20 years. It's just not worth it.
No.
I think it's just so easy to throw those females back, and you still have enough for a dinner or 2 or 5. You catch 6 crabs, you can still make crab spaghetti for 4 people probably. There's ways you can stretch it.
Yeah, that
So,
sounds delicious all of a sudden.
I mean, we didn't even talk about that aspect of it. That's probably why.
Why don't we go down this
Next
rabbit
step.
hole? Like,
Yeah. But now I'm
Chapter
intrigued.
so we're gonna go catch some crab. What are some cool recipes that aren't just like, oh, we're gonna boil them or steam them?
Dump them in butter.
I mean,
Yeah.
we should.
Well, I think one thing that that's hard about crabs is storing them, and this is one thing that we started doing is cleaning the crabs. Is after you catch them, we keep them in a basket, and then once a day, what we do is take ice water, get a big cooler full of ice water going, put them in there, which kills them, and then we would pull the top shell off and pull all the guts out, and basically break them in half and rinse them out real good. Because what we were experiencing is like we go down and we'd crab for a couple days, and we didn't want to cook them. We wanted to bring them back to Austin, a big old crab boil.
Yep.
But keeping them alive is really hard. But if you get the guts out and clean them first, and then keep them super cold, ice down really good. Once all the guts are out, they'll keep beautifully.
Okay.
So I think that a storage
That's a good tip.
can be an issue because I tried every way to keep them alive because you can't get them too cold while they're alive. You'll kill them. And then, of course, if they get too hot, you'll kill them. If they get too dry, you'll kill them. So at the end of the day, we were just like, well, we got to figure out how to kill them.
So
and keep them.
you would say we pull up a trap, it's got a bunch of keepers in it. Right then, you think, hit them in ice water and kill them and clean them right then and pack them in ice?
Usually we, get enough to make it worth it, maybe at the end of the day, in the afternoon.
Okay.
Before we were going to go flounder gigging or before dinner or whatever, like just,
If you got a
once
big
you've got a
floating
good,
live
good
well bucket
bushel,
thing,
you can just, you can keep them in a basket for a couple hours. They'll stay in the shade. Yeah, they'll be fine.
Okay.
Out of the water, they'll be totally fine. And then we would shock them, and then clean them, and then bag them up, and then a lot of times we're cooking them there too. Can't wait, and boil them up and make pasta. But no, recipes. Crab spaghetti would be one. Either buy some good store-bought spaghetti or make some fresh pasta, and it's just crab meat, butter, garlic, lemon, probably some basil, and then if you're into a bunch of like chili flake, like some hot pepper,
Some
and
red pepper flakes.
kind of
yeah.
like,
so good. It's just so good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds really
And then all that. I mean,
Deal.
obviously all the crab
We
meat,
can do that.
and just tossed in there. I mean, they're a lot of work, obviously, but I like it. I really enjoy the work of just sitting around, just to have a beer and clean crabs and pick crabs and get all the meat and get good at it after a while. It's just like anything. You don't want to think about your how much time you're putting into it, but it's not like a return on investment like how much do you pay for a duck breast?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
we
talk about that a lot.
God, yeah.
We've talked to the boat and the dog and the training and don't talk about ducks. And now it's
Expensive meals.
us running some feeders at this little property we talked about and filling corn feeders and batteries and cameras a break and
The
Solar
most
panels,
expensive
the
free
memory
meat
card.
you can possibly have.
all of it's the most expensive free meat you can
This is
ever
the
buy.
most delicious pig backstrap I've ever had.
Yeah. But I mean,
You gotta spend your money
that-
on something,
Yeah.
and it ain't golf.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's entertainment too.
That's it.
And
It's a
like
hobby
you're
with
spending-
rewards,
Yeah,
other than
absolutely.
just pure at the moment entertainment. You take something home, you can make a good meal. There's the return on investment is the bonus to the journey.
Yeah.
feeding
I
myself,
decided to
feeding
stop
my
worrying
friends,
about that a long time
Oh,
ago.
for sure, for sure.
Sitting down and having a fun meal with good company.
Absolutely,
Totally worth it.
Absolutely.
100%.
Crab spaghetti. We can do that. Sure.
I want crab spaghetti real bad right now.
Yeah. Crab
we gotta,
dip,
We gotta get
Crab dip.
Oh yeah, crab dip for sure. Crab dip's good.
See?
crab cakes.
Yeah.
My
crab
wife makes a
stuffed
ton
pounder.
of fish cakes, so yeah.
So
totally
if
crab
I
cakes.
buy a bag of blue crabs from Central Market, is it even going to touch? Because they're frozen and they're whole. It's not even going to touch.
Well, it's just going to have a little age on it, and it's just something that doesn't age well.
Bode well for crab.
It's going to be magic for the first 3 or 4 days, and that stuff. And unfortunately, most of the crab industry is not in Texas anymore. There's only maybe 2 or 3 pickers left. There's a guy in Seadrift. There's maybe some people up in Anahuac still doing it, but most of the industry has gone to Mexico, and so it's just by default it's not going to get here quick enough. There's still some people in Louisiana too, but it's a tough industry, just
Wonder
like
if I can
anything
run
else. So
crab traps in
buying blue crab is hard, and I would just say never ever buy pasteurized crab. That stuff's gross.
Yeah, probably
but-
another good tip.
Sometimes you can get, you go to Central Market and they have those pint tubs of picked crab, and a lot of times it'll be very good. You're paying the price. It's $28, $30, $32 a pound for jumbo. But, it can be really good, but it doesn't hold a candle to those crabs you got out of the water, the day of and boiled them just right. And that's good stuff. So,
No doubt.
All right.
you know,
No
Family
doubt.
trip to the coast.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Starmore Creek Family Coast trip.
Yes.
Come spring.
Coast
get past,
challenge.
Coast challenge.
Get past,
February.
freezer filling season.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've talked a lot about, saltwater stuff. We talked a lot about bass.
Yeah.
No guy.
We talk about Neil Guy. I've killed a few. Hoping Jared Jordan gets to kill one this year.
I'm really hoping to kill one this year.
He said my name first.
No, but not you.
I get put in now because you said my name.
Where's my helmet? I'm going in, Coach.
I've cut up. I've cut up all of mine. I guess they're just so big. It's work. It is work. And watching you do that, the one on Meat Eater was just, man, my hat's off. Like, I can cut up a deer really efficiently, but getting into a Neil Guy, I'm just like, as soon as I get the skin off, I'm like, what am I doing? This is daunting.
What have I done?
Yeah.
Well, I think, it's funny. I was talking about this today. Conceptually, you just got to treat it like a deer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a big deer.
Giant.
And then when it's hanging, you start at the bottom and work up. Basically, you're just, I came in today. I had a small Neil Guy today. It was a 150-pound carcass. So that's a young cow. And the first thing, you just come in and just take the armrests off, right? Into the shoulder blades, and then I take the neck off, and then I start just cutting through the vertebrae and just taking little sections off that are manageable. Get that on the table, and do that, and then all the way up, and then you're at the hams eventually, and it's not so daunting. I did a bison last January, and I went into it, and I was just like, and it was not only was I cleaning a bison, but I was doing it in front of a crowd of like 70 people.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I've never done that, but I was like, how different could it be?
Yeah,
It's
it's a
just
four-legged animal.
Conceptually, I just got to think about this just like anything else. And, in fact, it was almost easier because of how big it was without getting too graphic, like the coring part was a breeze,
Sure.
because it's like that big.
Exactly.
Instead of like little. So
Yeah,
it's
instead of
easier to,
taking a little knife and cutting it out. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And we had it on a front end loader. So it was just like, just
Raise it up,
be
please.
like up a little, down, down. And
Oh, that's nice.
a reciprocating saw, how the old saws all out.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
just going to town on it, and it worked out great. It was just like, it was fine.
Probably
It
hamburger
took
meat.
me 2 hours. I don't know to break it all down. And
Yeah, I wanted to touch
I
on
just thought
bison.
about it like a deer.
So, was this by chance at Rome Ranch?
It was, yeah.
So, have you served bison in your restaurant? Because that's one of the things you didn't mention it. I wanted to bring it up because you didn't mention it on your game list.
Yeah. We'll every once in a while we'll buy a quarter. And I've got a relationship with a bison rancher, old school guy down in South Texas in Carrizo Springs, and we'll buy a quarter or two or sometimes a whole animal from him, maybe once or twice a year. And because I love bison, I think they're just amazing animals too, and I think that as far as nutrition and energy, they're pretty magnificent. They're really cool.
So, in your restaurant, do you advertise it as a game species, or is it just advertised as bison? Or
We just call it bison.
Yeah.
Face value.
Yeah, but when we're getting them off of that ranch, they're wild, and a lot of it to me is just what their diet is, and that's why I choose specifically to serve nilgai, is because nilgai won't go to a corn feeder.
Yep.
So they're eating just native grasses. They're eating a very pure diet, and they're wild. You just can't, corral them. So I think that's a prime selling point to me, is what nilgai bring to the table, and bison's very similar to that too. It's just they're just really hard to tame. They're just cool animals, and they have really good diets, and they have a really good impact on the land too. They're really excellent animals to bring back native grasses, things like that, and they help regenerate soil. So it's a cool thing to support.
Interesting.
Agreed.
Neil Guy, is my wife's favorite meat. It started a couple years ago at a friend's family's place down South Texas, high fence. They're calling certain whitetail, right? And that's cool. Managing for these big giant trophy deer, that's cool. awesome, get after it. But they've always got some nilgai running around.
Mm-hmm.
So they shoot her. She was sitting with my buddy in a stand, and he shoots one. We take some pieces home, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's delicious." So since then, we go back, and it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna sit in South Blind where the nilgai hang out. Keep your whitetail. I can shoot those in Dallas. Like I'm just gonna shoot your nilgai this weekend. They're just so good." And then we talked to Hank Shaw recently, and he spoke of the Whistler cuts, which I had no idea was a thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like they're
The muscles along the trachea.
yeah, right along the trachea. He
Okay.
said it's like 2 extra tenderloins if you cut it right. I'm like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Those like long,
Yeah.
thin, go right along. Yeah.
and I kind of just cut the neck up in a neck roast and would crock pot it for tacos or braise it down or something, and it was great. But now I'm kind of interested to shoot another nilgai and cut it up like that and
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
We shall see, right?
I mean, it's upon us.
It is upon us.
I mean, do you realize that we'll be hunting ducks in like
3 weeks. You said you do some duck hunting, right? Not avid.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I have basically one spot that I go to. It's a little farm pond, and year to year it can be anywhere from maybe we'll get a duck or maybe we'll get a limit in 4 minutes.
Sure.
It's kind of one or the other. So seeing, and it's just like anything else, how much time I have.
you're a recreational duck hunter.
Yeah, I haven't gone pro, but we are offering duck hunts this year on for our classes. And normally we've always done it's just deer and hog, and that's what we do. And this year, since we're doing 2 people, I just was like, I'm like, it's very open ended. I said, like whatever you wake up and want to do, we can go do. Like if you want to go shoot some ducks, we're going to do that. So the ranch that we work out of, and it's between San Antonio and Corpus. It has access to a lake. I mean, it's got miles of public lakefront, and then a lot of marsh that's sequestered from the public. And so there's a bunch of ducks down there.
That's awesome.
We even see some geese sometimes too,
Awesome.
and lots of dove, quail, snipe, tons of snipe,
That's
and
rad.
hogs and deer. And it has a pretty good blue catfish in the winter. You can just catch them offshore. So the plan for this year is like whatever you feel like doing. So we're ready to do just about all that. In fact, I was right before I got on this call with y'all. I was assembling some marsh seats for everybody.
Game
just 'cause we
changer
have to
right there.
Be very, very mobile out there. And it's not the kind of place where we're going to hit limits. It's just like we're a good day is 6 or 8 ducks between 2 or 3 people. But it's real pretty down there, and a duck hunt to me is kind of the setting and everything that transpires, not necessarily like 6 bird limit.
For sure.
I love duck hunting. I'm terrible at it, but I really, really enjoy it.
You could hang out with us then.
Yeah. You also love duck hunting.
we absolutely love it, and
Yeah.
it's we all love killing our deer. We all love putting our venison in the freezer, but man, once that duck season switch flips, we're there. And I explained to so many people, like, what is it? I said, deer hunting's great. But it's very quiet. It's very still. It's very peaceful. You get to think a lot. But duck hunting, you get out there stupid early because we on public land to claim our spot that we've scouted. So we get out there stupid early. We kind of start figuring out and where spread's gonna go, and then everybody's kind of
You get to hang out with your buddies.
hangs out in
Yeah.
the swamp with your buddies for a couple hours, drinking coffee and deciding which way is this wrong way to set the spread, which we're going to change at dawn anyways, and drink some coffee. And it's so social. And you've got the dog, and then you get set up, and then come that first light, it's silence on the marsh, man. It's just gorgeous. The sun's coming up, and it's quiet, and then the shots start coming, and hey, over your left. But I don't know. It's hanging out with your good buddies.
Bird hunting in general is such a community and social thing you can do. It makes it so much fun. If you sit there with your buddies, you can talk. You don't have to be quiet. All that kind of stuff. You can see them coming in, and you're like, "Hey, all right, hang on. Let's do something," And it's just super fun.
Yeah,
I live for that sound, like when it's just usually like 3 minutes before legal, and it's just, and it's
God.
just okay, it's gonna happen today, or they're all gonna come in before legal, or that's the last duck I'll see. You never really know. It's the chess game.
Yeah.
Like you can do so many things wrong during it, and you have to do just pretty much everything right for it to all happen sometimes, and I love that.
Yeah, like when a till buzzes your head and it sounds like a helicopter landing. What's that?
For sure. Do you want to talk about
What
pigs
do
at all?
Shoot?
Do what?
Go ahead.
Well, what do y'all shoot mostly up there? What kind of ducks?
Man, we
Mixed
see
bowl
up
bag.
at DFW, we see the mixed bag.
Greenheads.
We shoot a lot. Like last year, shot a ton of greenheads, shot a bunch of shovelers, shot some pintails, shot widgeon, shot
Wood
teal,
Not many gadwall.
shot a couple
Well,
gadwall.
that's all we
Yeah,
got.
a few gadwall.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Wood duck.
I mean, yeah, we shoot wood ducks out in East Texas at the deer lease. I mean, we see everything
Mixed
up here.
bag, for sure.
yeah.
They say the Red
Yeah.
River's kind of, where mallards kind of stop, right?
Yeah.
So if we're lucky, and last year we found the X.
Yeah, we
And
definitely did.
I scouted and scouted and scouted, and I think this is the
You boys
spot.
shot some big old boys.
And we put some mallards in the freezer and in the fridge, and it was
On the
great.
wall.
And I have this aspiration. I didn't ever get to it last year. Was to do a big giant mallard Peking duck. Is that a realistic
Good question.
admiration?
Goal.
A goal?
Aspiration.
Yeah, aspiration. That's what I'm looking for. Aspiration.
You said ass.
I think so. I mean,
You
it's
think?
just like of course, we don't see any down here. It's just gadwall central. It's 80%
Gadwall are delicious.
gadwalls. Yeah, they're good. Maybe a few widgeon. Some years we see teal. Sometimes we don't. And I'm talking about this pond.
Sure.
We killed a canvas back there, 6 years ago. But it's pretty in favor of the gadwalls. But I think you definitely could. I mean, if you got a good fatty mallard, like a big fat mallard, then you could do the whole Peking duck treatment on it for sure.
Okay.
But, the ones we get
Still
down
wanna do it
here
this
are
year.
typically pretty lean. They haven't hit the rice fields yet, and so they're just they're not as. I think you got them like from a culinary aspect, you probably got a little better up there, and then down on the coast, everybody's got a little better too because they're really kind of stocking up on that rice, and they're feeding pretty heavily down there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's another reason why I don't get after them as much as I used to. It's just because they're not as great. I always feel like they could be better, somewhere else. And this year we're really going to go after the wood ducks a little bit more. There's some public land. We found a few wood ducks on last year, and nobody's out there. We found a good spot, and there's also a few squirrels on the way back. So
Word. That's a
little
great spot.
wood
It
duck
sounds like.
squirrel mix would be pretty good. So I think we're going to concentrate more on that public land wood duck hunting. And I'll go ahead and name the lake. It's Somerville. It's Lake Somerville.
Okay.
Got it. Somerville it is.
Yeah.
Somerville.
Somerville.
Loaded.
Lake Tawakoni.
Yeah, Lake
Yeah.
Tawakoni.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Lake Tawakoni. I mean, honestly, we could say we're going to hunt because you ain't getting another permit.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these lakes up here, you have to put in with the Army Corps, and they only issue X number of permits, so they're all
By
gone. So
now,
it doesn't.
it's too late.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Nobody else
For
is
this
getting
year.
a permit. Last year was honestly 100% honest with Lake Louisville. We crushed it on Lake Louisville.
Wow.
My fondest
That's
memory
so
is
cool.
falling down and missing my mallard and getting yelled at.
Yeah.
It was a fun hunt.
Who would yell at you for that?
Some lady. No, she wouldn't yell at me for falling. She was yelling at us for
Yeah.
shooting.
Yeah, we're walking over here. I said, "Yes, ma'am."
I
we're
forgot
hunting
it- I
over
forgot
here."
about that one.
Like,
Well, I just ignored her.
we were 100%
I
legal.
had just shot a duck. I was going
Yeah.
to retrieve it.
Yeah, there's a couple I think water treatment retention ponds around where we hunted, and it was pretty close to some houses. But there was I scoured these maps, and there was handfuls of pixels of legal hunting right there on this little island. And we stood on that island and we shot a certain way, and everything we did was right.
Everything's a certain yardage
we
from
were-
houses.
Yeah,
like-
range we checked the boxes, and we had a game warden out there a couple times glassing us, but never came and talked to us. And
Yeah.
I think it was all those houses saying, somebody's shooting back here, somebody's shooting back here. Yeah, totally. 3.5-inch number twos at dawn. Sorry, we were cranking it.
Yeah, every single year.
Yeah.
I mean, you think
And this year it's funny that map that area right there is chopped, unhuntable. I guess they found the loophole that we found.
That lady, I bet you that lady.
Totally, and it is what it is.
Karen.
And it's funny. I ran up that same spot, ran through there before teal season to scout. Pre-dawn, scooting through there in the boat, busted up a ton of mallards. They're just residents, man. They hang out there. So, yeah.
Park ducks.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, but they were. I mean, the big giant mallard I shot that he should have shot last year. Just 3-curled giant bird that's on the
I
living
have
room
to
wall
look
right
at it
now.
every time I come over.
Yeah, it's on the wall. I mean,
It's terrible.
Yeah, that was the spot. We shot some giant ducks.
That was a great
awesome.
duck.
It was awesome. It was cool.
Yeah, I've seen about 6 mallards in Central Texas. I walked over a tank dam, and I had a shotgun in my hand, and 6 mallards got up off of the pond and flew up, and I pulled up on them, and I remembered it was the split. And I was like, I was dove hunting.
Yeah.
And I was just, I mean, the reaction was like, all of a sudden, I just saw these greenheads, and I was just like, what are you doing here? And then, of course, that's the only time I've ever seen a mallard around here, and couldn't take the shot.
Yep. I've got buddies down Corpus, McAllen, coast area, and they're like, nah, man, we can throw a rock and hit a redhead, but we don't see a mallard. I was like, well, why don't you come up here and shoot mallards?
Yeah,
and
back up here.
We'll go down there and shoot redheads.
There you go.
Call it good.
You show us how to crab. We'll get you on the green.
They're not crabbers.
I'm talking to Jesse.
Oh.
Deal.
Yeah, we can put you
As
on
I
green.
was told earlier,
Come on.
we've been explained everything.
Yeah, I know, but
That's okay.
we'll do some trading out. Hang out,
Yeah.
drink beer, catch crabs.
Up
Sounds
here we
weird,
so much-
but
Up
Can't
here
so
we
much write the book on crabbing as maybe like write the pamphlet.
Yeah.
yeah, it's really just one of those go do it type things.
figure it
I'm
out.
only gonna read a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Hog Book?
Yeah. We
Talk about
so
Hog
that's
Book.
that's the next book. We've been working on it for way too long, over 10 years.
Wow.
Since kind of predates Afield. Like we were starting to work on the second book, and by we I mean me and Jody, the photographer. He's an amazing photographer. He's got a James Beard Award under his belt. He's done a lot of cookbooks. He's pretty incredible. We're good friends, and he's great to be in the field with too, because he gets it, and he can stay quiet, and he can hunt. I mean, he doesn't hunt. He just always taking pictures. But we wrapped recipes just the other day. So it's so far we're at about 105 recipes.
Nice.
4 different butchery diagrams or sequences. History, hunting techniques, skinning, gutting techniques, 3 different ways. Field dressing, gutless, hanging, and then breaking down hogs by size and sex and fat content, and to what to do if you get a big boar, what to do if you get a little piglet, what to do if you get a mid-sized sow that doesn't have much fat on it. Kind of just a real good, quick resource, and kind of demystifying a lot of the information out there about hogs.
Cool, that's a cool angle.
You can't eat them. Period. You can't eat them if they're this big. You can't eat a big boar. All of which is patently untrue. We talk about safety. We talk about diseases they may carry, things like that, and how to go about it. Basically, I'm fascinated by hogs, and that we have this resource sitting in front of us, and they can be so very good if you're willing to give it a shot. We ate some for dinner. Had some enchiladas just tonight. Fantastic. Off a nice little 70-pound salad that I shot on Sunday. And it was just real good. And the book is, there's 250 full color photos.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Like I said, 105 recipes. We're trying to just detail everything about hogs, how to build a really simple trap. Everything is in there. Little stories, kind of like in a field. And we really tried to make the recipes very, very approachable. Lots of sausage, but we also go in depth with things like curing, like how to do country style hams, cured hams, salamis, andouille, and different cured tasso, city hams, brine hams, brining chops, different rib techniques depending on the size of the pig. all kinds of slow cooking things and just tips and techniques, sauces, side dishes, everything. It's kind of a volume. So we're really excited about it. And we're going to do a
Sold.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Holy sold.
What
Yeah.
about so? What
It
about
was
the
good to
age
hear.
old age-old question of can you get bacon off of a wild pig?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's actually we cover that. Now
Nice.
I've seen maybe 24 pigs in my hog cutting career that would make legitimate slicing bacon, the kind that you're gonna have with over easy eggs.
Okay.
It's going to require a very large hog that's very fat. So typically it's going to be a sow to generalize. Uh, but I mean, maybe a big fatty boar, but it's going to be pretty rare. So I mean, you need 2 to 3 inches of meat on the ribs with fat, and I mean the bacon from a domestic hog is coming off of a 300-pound plus pig usually. So those are pretty rare in the wild. Everybody's cousin, killed 300 pound. I've legitimately killed a 300-pound pig, but they're
Everybody
not
on
that
Instagram
common.
thinks their pig is 300 pounds.
Right.
I've killed
right.
a 285. Jordan and I could barely get it on a four-wheeler to take it back.
Oh, they're huge.
And then we had this discussion yesterday or the day before. Somebody on Instagram posted this pig. We didn't have scales, but we measured it, and it was definitely 475. Not a chance.
The next picture was the man like sitting like squatting next to it. And it's like no way. Like,
Not a
no.
chance.
What was
No
it?
way.
It was barely as long
He
as
was like
his AR.
length.
It was-
It was a 50-inch length, five
It was
5 foot
60
length.
inches. It was 5 foot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I immediately sent them a picture. I was like, "Here's that 285 where I killed me standing next to it, hanging." It was also about. I'm 6 foot on the dot. It was about 4.5, 5 foot. That's 285, and it was a big
That's what I was
sow.
saying, it was maybe
that
300.
pig was not 50% girthier than the one I shot because science. Like, just no. So everybody who shoots a pig and doesn't weigh it is sure they've got a 400-pound pig. Like, no.
I mean, both pigs I shot were 400 pounds. You
It
were
was
there,
real
you
heavy
saw it.
though. It was heavy.
And this is 6 inches.
Yep.
Yeah, it's rare. They did this thing. We cover this in the book. There's this
Still.
rodeo in Houston, and there's Parks and Wildlife. Put three feral hogs in a pen live, and had everyone guess the weights. And then they took all those guesses and they averaged them, and the average guess was twice the actual weight.
No way.
And people just they look
No
at a pig
idea.
and it's a 70-pounder, and they're like 150, and it's like because I mean they're just bulky and small, and they have this really specific like dead weight to them too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a 250-pound pig is hard to pick up. I mean, it's just like lead. And I've seen a couple that have probably broken 300. We had in one of our classes, we had a guy, he killed one, and that thing was just a beast. He was about 6'6", and stretched out next to him. It was longer on the gambles. And that thing was just it was a bear. And I killed one out in Lockhart that I had a crank gambrel that goes in the hitch of my truck, and it broke the post down on it. And we just left it on the ground and cleaned it, and it was one of the most delicious pigs I've ever had too. It was a boar. And it was, let's be conservative and say it was 275, but I mean, the thing was a monster, and it was a big old boar, and it was fantastic. I mean, had a ton of fat on it. I made pancetta out of the belly, cured Italian style bacon, and then tons of really good sausage. We got chops, boneless loin off of it, and a lot of really good meat, and nothing about that pig was gamey at all. It was a giant boar. 99% of people, I think, would have just left it for the buzzards. But I tend to clean every pig because I think there's a use for almost all of them. And I think that's one of the things we address in the book. I'm not going to be preachy about it and say, like, you have to. But I'm saying if you're interested, this is what you can do with a big boar. This is what you do with a 20-pound pig that you caught in a trap, or maybe you're a great shot. And this is what you do with a 100-pound pig that's got a little bit of fat on it. We try to break it down into these like simple categories, because I think that's where people kind of go wrong. People will say, "What's your favorite recipe for feral hog?" And I'm like, "Well, how big is it? Like, are we talking like a piglet, or a big old South Texas boar that has no fat on it at all. You cannot treat them the same way. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. And they just kind of perpetuate that, somebody tells them you can't eat a pig over, let's pick the weight, 120,
anything over 100 pounds inedible.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's just like
I ate that 285.
99.
We had every scrap of it.
You guys tried the tacos I made from that big hog that they got.
Yeah,
it was fine.
It all eats.
Yep.
I'm pretty comfortable cutting up a pig and cooking the different parts. One thing is ribs. I've still got a couple racks of Neil Guy ribs even. And you see so many things of like boiling, braising prior to grilling, and then or pressure cooking. Start with give me some advice for ribs. Be it pig ribs, and then maybe some Neil Guy ribs too.
Yeah, I mean, well, the pre-cooking of game, to be general, of game ribs is, I think, sound advice.
Okay.
If you shoot a sow and you cut the ribs and it looks like something you'd buy at the store or the farmer's market, then by all means you can throw that on the smoker just like you would with domestic pork. Now, if it was a young hog and you've got half an inch of meat on it and not a lot of fat at all, and you still want to have a rib experience, I think that you're going to want to approach that with one form of pre-cooking. And that's either going to be poaching, directly in water, not boiling, but like a real gentle cook, a wrapped smoke where you're wrapping it in parchment paper and then smoking that until it's tender, then finishing on a grill, like over more direct heat.
Sure.
Or almost the same process where you're going to wrap that up really well with probably parchment paper is my preferred way. And then just throwing it in the oven and cooking that until it's pretty much tender, and then finishing that on a grill. That grill finish is giving you smoke, char, sear, all that, and an opportunity to glaze. And I think that best part of ribs is kind of that. We're going to glaze it. We're going to put something sweet and sour on there, and kind of build up that crust on them. And that fat, it's a combination of that fat, the connective tissue, the gelatinous qualities of that cooking down. It gives it that really unctuous, like brisket-like quality. And then that glaze, and so I think it's that end part. So get it tender however you can. And this applies to Neil Guy ribs too. Get it tender however you can and finish it.
Okay.
Neil Guy ribs specifically, like in a field, I've got that recipe for cheetah ribs, where they're poached in like super seasoned water. I would do that with Neil Guy. That works really well with venison, antelope, anything like that. That's particularly lean. Is to cook it in highly seasoned water until it's tender, and then finish it on the grill, and then glaze it up. And they can be phenomenal like that. And ribs are so good, and totally. You can't just write them off just because we think the only way is to just throw them on a smoker, because you have to have a really perfect kind of like a perfect storm of meat and fat and connective tissue for a rib to perform like domestic pork ribs do on a smoker. If you don't have that, you're going to kind of have to literally cheat it a little bit.
Sure.
And you're talking about just directly into the water.
Yeah.
Like just in a big,
big pot.
Big
and
pot.
Then, byproduct of that is you're going to get some really nice broth out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So just, season up those ribs. You can do anything you want. And then just get them to where they're not falling apart by any means. You want them to be just tender, pull them out, get them a little bit cool so they're easier to handle. And then you're going to put them on the grill and cook them for maybe 20 minutes on the grill, flipping and glazing and flipping and glazing, and then they're going to be tender and amazing.
So when I'm cooking domestic ribs, you can kind of get the droop and the crack test, and that's my metric because I don't want falling off the bone. When you're parboiling these, or just tenderizing them, cooking them off beforehand, is there a way to tell, or just kind of fork it and figure it out?
Yeah, you're just monitoring.
Monitor
you have to
it,
just
sure.
kind of keep an eye on them.
Yeah, all animal dependent, I'm sure.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
So much variation between them. Yeah, definitely. Neil Guy ribs on the menu soon, then, because I need to get. We're kind of all in the middle of let's get the freezer empties. Let's get the freezers emptied.
I've got some venison ribs. Maybe we can do a
deal.
A rib off.
A rib off?
Yeah.
All right.
I ain't trying to fight you.
We ain't having a cooking fight. Is that what you're talking about?
We can do a rib off.
All right.
All right.
I'll be the judge.
I got some teal ribs.
Teal ribs.
Teal ribs.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Would it? Would it? Would it?
Oh,
No.
my goodness.
I
Totally.
didn't think so.
Quail ribs.
Yeah.
Well, man, Jesse, what else do you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I probably go all night. I need to take a cocktail break at some point, but you know, I mean, hogs are something that I would just go off about. But I mean, I guess these days I'm a little more like leery. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I should shut up a little about the hogs.
No,
I
absolutely.
mean, man, we shoot it.
Buy the book.
He's waiting for
Yeah,
the book
but-
to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, we shoot a ton of pigs. We cut them up when there's a want from a friend, or we want to put something in the freezer, or depending on the school night and how late we're out, and so many.
Sure.
We shot a couple Sunday night. There was a bunch of things going on. Didn't cut them up. Just
They sat there because we're actually deer hunting.
we all went and gotten stands with our bows and our ARs. So it's like,
Right.
all right, it's dusk
Okay.
now. Hang your bow up and get your rifle out.
Yeah.
And I had a couple come in pretty early, and we hadn't seen any deer, and I was like, yeah, we're just going to shoot these pigs. So,
Plus, you're
Yeah.
suppressed, so it wasn't even that loud.
no.
Yeah.
So, makes
Yeah, I get it. I mean, we're trying to include like recipes just for backstraps, things like that, for when if that's all you're really wanting to do,
Yep.
it's just go in there and pull backstraps off and just kind of have some like new, fresh things for that. And then I state many times in that book, because like I don't expect everybody to keep all their hogs, but I just like if we can do anything to inspire people, if they were thinking about it,
To get
to
after 'em,
be
yeah.
able to utilize those pigs a little bit more. Because I mean, what was saying, what would happen if these pigs tasted, terrible? That would be a really bad situation. I mean, like they're invasive and highly destructive, and they're just tearing up all these crops and doing all this
they
damage
taste
to the water
awful.
supply, and eat baby deer and tear up brownie nesting birds and all that. It's like, but at least they're pretty good to eat, if not delicious. And
Sure.
so we'd be in a different situation altogether if they tasted terrible.
Yeah, I can't wait for that book. On the lease the wife and I are on, it's out in East Texas. There's a ton of swamp. So many pigs get shot. I mean, every weekend multiple get shot. And a lot of these guys, I'm one of the youngest on the lease, so they're just they'll eat them and make sausage out of them, but they're just always kind of like, I don't know what else to do. So I can't wait for your book to come out to kind of show them like, hey, here's a bunch more ideas.
Yeah, those guys are
Yeah.
super into.
Like they want some.
Yeah.
They have no problem eating pigs. They're just kind of like, we've grilled backstraps and we've made sausage. What else are we supposed to do? So,
Sure.
and I mean, this will be
Sure.
eye-opening to them. Like, just
Yeah.
here's all the
Yeah.
other options. Maybe maybe the next handful we shoot, I'll save some ribs and do some ribs for them. And like, look, this is a thing.
Yeah.
You have a
So-
tentative release date for the book?
Yeah, we're looking at March. We're hoping. So the Kickstarter will probably launch in the next week or two, and we're it'll
Nice.
essentially just be pre-selling
Sure.
the book. We're self-publishing this one. We went through a publisher for a field, but everything in that world is so different now. In between social media and Amazon, and just the connection that you can have with people that you want to, get your book to. It's just so different than it was even 8 years ago. And so self-publishing is way more viable these days. I think Hank is self-publishing his books now, Hank Shaw,
Sure.
and he's doing real well with it. But he does a lot of touring as well. He has to support those, but we opted for that, and so it's a little more of a process, but we'll also be more in control of it. Last time as a field, we have a publisher out of New York, and I remember the editor had to review some things with me, and she's like, so can you tell me what you're doing in step 1 of this pig picture? And I was like, yeah, I'm cutting off his penis. And she just screamed. And I had to just like that's how we kicked it off, and I
Yeah,
was
she's like, oh my God.
Welcome to the party, lady.
Welcome to the party, lady.
Buckle up.
hello,
Yeah.
New York. So just being more in control. I mean, I'd say it's a beautiful book, but it's also a very honest book.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was that for a
some
recipe?
shots in there that a publisher probably would have been like, no, and we're like,
That's the
this
beauty of it,
is
though.
how it works.
I mean, I'll be looking for the Kickstarter to pre-order, no doubt.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
I
I appreciate
we'll
it.
share
It'll
all that
It
info.
should be real soon. It should be really soon. And like I said, we're really wrapping it up. And
Well, if nothing
Right,
else
absolutely.
out of this podcast, you sold 5 books. So there's your.
Oh, more than that.
Well, I'm
great.
saying for us,
For sure.
we are buying 5 books for sure.
For sure.
So,
No
like-
question.
well, I
a dozen.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a hell of a good time. I really appreciate talking to y'all, and I love these Texas podcasts. Those guys like The Element. I don't know if you know them.
Yep. We know those
we
guys.
those
Those guys are so cool, and I like talking to my people. So
Yeah.
For
I really
sure, man.
appreciate it.
We couldn't appreciate it more. I mean, that's all about just exploring the opportunities that our home state, the greatest state, has to provide, and showing all these people who, you don't eat bass, you don't eat pigs, there's no public land, you can't hunt anywhere, this place sucks. Like, well, most of what you said is wrong. You just got to do some work for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's just kind of our passion, is getting out to do it and showing other people what's up to
yeah.
and figuring it out.
Taken.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Well, man, we
So-
can't wait to get down, eat at the restaurant, shake your hand. Can't wait to pre-order the HOG book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find me a copy of A Field. I have one sitting in a cart somewhere that I was looking at recently, because that just completely was not on my radar. I don't know how. Maybe it's because it was 8 years ago and I wasn't near.
When you were just a boy.
When I was
Yeah.
just a wee lad.
Just a wee lad.
Yeah, I was worried trying to find a deer to kill,
Yeah.
and then I was cutting it up and taking it to Kubi's, which is
Yeah.
fine. There's zero wrong with that.
And
But
Kubi's is
Oh,
good
Kubi's
stuff.
is awesome.
I mean, honestly, the last few Nilgai I've killed, those front shoulders, turn them all into bratwurst. I'll take the shanks off for
That's
us
what we
Buko
had
and
for
stuff.
dinner tonight.
But yeah,
Yeah.
tonight we had Nilgai bratwurst from Kubi's. They're the best. It saves me from cutting up a couple shoulders. The rears I can deal with and make some cool cuts, but shank
Yeah.
off the front, bratwurst out of the rest, man. It's been great. We love them.
Perfect.
So
Well, when you get a field, check out that teal in a jar recipe.
yeah, I've
Teal in a jar.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a confit of sorts, correct?
Yeah, it's like a self-contained little
Yep.
tiny pressure cooker.
Deal. I'm gonna
Nice.
find it tonight now.
There you go.
'Cause that for the
We're,
first duck of these first teal we shoot in a big duck season, I'll make a teal in a jar.
I got some breasts.
I'll make the whole thing,
Oh, yeah.
whole thing, teal in a jar.
So
Whole thing in a jar.
for the classes you do, how do you get booked up on that? Like what's the process to get involved with it?
Well, we release. Well, in a typical year, we would have released the schedule in maybe July. This year, we released it really late.
Right.
We released it in September,
Sure.
and we released 7 classes. And also, in a typical year, we wouldn't have done so many public classes. We would have left a lot of room for private, but I just opted out for doing any private this year. I'm just doing all 2-person classes, and we sold those 7 classes in a
Nice.
matter of
But
4 or 5 days. It was just
Oh.
gone.
where do you
Yeah.
release them at?
Just on our website,
Did I do it?
Instagram, our website, and then a newsletter that goes out to everybody. But we released that schedule the 2 days before Meat Eater came out, and so once
Oh,
that came out,
God.
it was just like, ding, ding,
Boom,
ding.
done, gone.
They're all gone.
What? Clarify
Cool.
for everybody listening. What website? Just
Yep.
you shameless self promotion here.
Daidue,
okay.
DAIDUE.com, and so the restaurant website and the New School of Traditional website are on that same page, and then a lot of information about that. And then, we hope to, next year, normal, maybe we'll do some turkey in the spring, maybe some coastal fishing in the summer, and then by next year, we hope to just be back to full-on normal classes and private events too, where bring us out. We'll travel anywhere. We'll come to your ranch and cook for you for 3 or 4 days and teach you anything you want. Basically, it's like a scavenger hunt. I'm just like, you go out there and get me a turkey or a catfish, or a turkey and a catfish and a deer and a pig, or whatever it is. You bring it back and we will play with that to your heart's content. We'll make sausage. We'll cut it up. We'll eat it raw. Just tell me, and we'll play with that. And
That's
have
super
a
rad.
van full of equipment to do anything that you want. It's just like it's a road show. So
That's
it's
awesome.
it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. So
It sounds awesome.
that sounds like a great
if
deal.
you do a coastal fishing class, I'll keep my eyes open for that. As we said, we're all fairly, new to that, just 'cause living in DFW, and it's not our, it's so far for us. But we keep rabbit trailing as we kind of try to wrap up. But I've got a raccoon bug for the last year and a half, just to trap. I've got some arm traps. We've shot some. Like I want to cook some raccoons this year.
yeah, I mean, why not?
Have you done it before?
Friend in South Texas, I've eaten it.
You've eaten it?
He makes mole in the crock pot.
Okay, I've got some ideas. I know it's kind of
Whoa.
greasy. I want to run a real
Mole?
vinegar-heavy sauce to kind of
Raccoon.
cut through that
Yes.
grease. I don't know.
Yeah.
I may just like
You're on the right track.
I would maybe take some
No,
hindquarters.
stop. You will make raccoon mole for me.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do that. But I also want to take some,
But hang on.
and I want to put it in a vacuum bag with some seasoning, some spices, some fat, some oil, and I want to kind of confit it in the sous vide for a bit and shred it and try to make some like raccoon banh mi.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that could work. I think that.
The look
could-
on his face, he's like, yeah.
Because everybody's, I don't know. I mean, it may be just really not that great. I'll never do it again. But by God, I'm gonna do it one
No,
time.
it'll be good.
Like
bet.
It'll be
he
good.
he
There's
he.
no way.
Other Austin over here, he's eating some coyote, some raccoon. Like he's
Yep.
he's run the gamut.
If I kill it, I eat it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, man, we super appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, let me know. I mean, when the book comes out, we can come back and talk some more.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
Done.
totally.
We'll have you up
on.
here and
Maybe,
get you on some green
We
heads.
recap our duck seasons.
Yes.
Well, yes,
Get up here.
book release. We'll recap duck season. I'll have made teal in a jar. I'll probably have made some raccoon business of
But
sorts.
can you make sandhill crane in a jar?
Yeah, totally. A big jar.
Big ball
You
jar.
need a big jar.
I got that. I mean, I've cooked those already. I know what's
Yeah.
up with that.
Yeah, they're so good.
So
They're
good.
tasty.
So it's so much fun. But
Yeah.
we could drag this on all night. Jesse,
Thank
couldn't
you
be
so
more
much.
thankful. We know how to crab, apparently, from 0 to 60 at this point. Thank you. We'll look for the
0 to
book.
60.
March. Let's plan on March. Recap. We're postseason. We're kind of into turkey season. We'll talk to you then.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. I
Thanks,
really
man.
appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Man,
Thanks,
thank
buddy.
you so much.
Stormwater Creek is the best. Grinch, the captain. Abe, the helper. Jordan, the problem solver. I hope you like Stormwater Creek. Stormwater Creek.